introduce yourself real quick?
I'm Dan Schultheis. I'm functional manager, GSI.
Awesome. Thank you. So now before we get started today, I want to give you a minute just to review our safe harbor statement. Dan, if you don't mind advancing the slide.
I thought I did, sorry.
Thank you. Actually, can you go back?
You sure can.
Thank you. Also today, you'll be able to enter to win a $50 Amazon gift card. I'm going to be chatting out a link. You can just click on that link and go ahead and enter your information, and that's all you have to do. And we're grateful that you're here today with us.
I love me
So
some Amazon.
What'd you say?
Love me some Amazon gift cards.
Oh yeah, doesn't everyone? All right, so if we take a moment to review our safe harbor statement. So we just want to go over a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 40 minutes. We'll take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, and then I will provide a brief company overview. And then I'll turn it over to Dan to get into our main presentation, and then we'll wrap up with questions and answers. So if you'd like to submit a question, you can do so through the Q&A panel on your Zoom dashboard. As you can see right now on the screen, there's just an arrow pointing to the little Q&A. If you need any assistance, just let us know. And all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So now for a brief overview of GSI. So why partner with GSI? We are a full service ERP, SaaS, cloud, ITSM, cybersecurity reseller, consulting, and managed services organization. And we use advanced AI and automation in all of our products and services. And that allows us to help our clients reduce TCO and increase ROI. And we also have offices nationwide and partners worldwide, which allows us to offer a 24/7 global support model. And we are the only partner you will find in the industry that offers a 100% guarantee on everything that we do. So thank you. And now what you all came for, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to get into our main presentation.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Just want to do a quick little summary of who I am. I'm responsible for all the functional JD Edwards EnterpriseOne and World consultants, as well as functional app care consultants at GSI. Began my career way back in '89 as an end user. I've been a consultant since 1994. It says it's over 30 go lives. I think if you add, there's probably a couple more in there that I got there's an estimate of 30. I think it's probably about 35 or so. My focus areas have always been in the distribution area, sales, purchasing, and inventory. Manufacturing is, I'm okay with that, and a little bit of financials. That kind of rubs off on you as you go through life in JD Edwards. Yeah, I do have some things on here. I love to cook, competition barbecue, of course. Love to do that. I love to travel, especially when it's not work related. I love brewing beer and tailgating. If you look at the one above it, got barbecue, brewing beer, tailgating. It's all a thing. Married with 3 daughters, one getting married next week and one getting married in 6 months. So got to keep working for a long time. Okay, so let's talk about why we're here today. We're talking about sports entertainment company. It's big, all right? It's an integrated sports media organization that we helped go live. Recognized leader in global entertainment. Company consists of a portfolio of businesses that create and deliver original content 52 weeks a year to a global audience. The client is committed to family-friendly PG content across all of its platforms, including television, pay-per-view, digital media, and publishing. Okay, and programming is also broadcast in more than 145 countries, 30 languages, and reaches more than 500 million homes worldwide. So it's quite a company, right? So we have some challenges to get somebody like that live, right? One of the challenges, of course, there is no off season. There's a 52-week a year company, sometimes multiple events in the same week. And they have a couple times a year, they have multiple gigantic events, which are really big. Lots of business units. Every event, I'm going to use the word event a lot today, becomes a business unit, and many are cookie cutter, but there are challenges with each new business unit that gets created because some of the locations may be the same, may be different. And there's different talent that will be at each one of these events. And with that becomes a different set of merchandise that may have to be there and different crews of people. So say there's a lot of merchandise, well, yep, there's a ton of inventory. And it's sent to the locations based on popularity, again, on-site talent or legacy talent that may have some spikes in need. And how do you get them there? Well, there's transfers aplenty. We have the inventory gets transferred to the site, sold and reconciled after the show. The balance is returned and relived to another or resent to another show site. There were some modifications. Yep, we got a few modifications in this existing company. They weren't necessarily very too intrusive, but they definitely need to be retrofitted, right? So they also want to move to the cloud. You know, they haven't moved to the cloud, but they have very aged system, equipment and software. So that became a bit of a challenge all on its own. And on top of all that, they want to move their headquarters. That's where their data centers in their headquarters, and they want to move their headquarters. So we had, you know, the current on-prem hardware is pretty old, and really hadn't been upgraded or even restarted in a while. So I was told. I'm like, holy cow. There was a real concern with potentially moving that hardware, much less turning it off and on again. So that was kind of a thing to deal with as a challenge. And oh yeah, by the way, there's a little thing called a pandemic. And as you know, the issues that occurred there, you know, suddenly there's a need to work remotely, which a lot of folks can appreciate. But, you know, as GSI, we work remote anyway if we have to. It's not a big deal. But, you know, dealing with a company that's usually in the office, and all of a sudden they had to work remotely. And we also had, you know, a certain level of furloughs and considerable staff loss that were part of our team to start off. So it really set us back a little bit to start. So what are we looking at? Well, client was currently running JD Edwards 8.11 with several modifications. Again, we talked about that, and they want to get code current. So, you know, 8.11 is a challenge going from way back, right, to bring it up to 9.2. The client, again, I mentioned it before, they were on very outdated Oracle 9i hardware, and they want to move to the cloud, AWS cloud. And let's get this thing done in 7 months. So we started in the beginning, first or second week of March, actually. And we want to get it live by the end of September. That's the goal, right? So how do we get there? We started off, sorry, here's our high level scope. I'm sorry, I got this out of order here a little bit, but it's okay. So what do we want to do? We want to get them up to 9.2. By doing that, of course, we're going to install and configure E1 platform from 9.2. We're going to install and configure the web servers, all the dev workstations, the fat clients and whatnot, and get that going. And GSI is going to help them migrate to, you know, 8.11 to code and data to 9.2 on the AWS. We're going to assist with the unit testing. A lot of that, we're going to be assisting them with that. GSI is going to handle the issue resolution because the team was very, very, well, it was not huge to begin with, but it was even smaller after the lockdown. GSI also did the training on the navigation in UX 1. We're going to talk about that a little later. That's a nice little lesson we're going to talk about. GSI also used their Genesis load testing to really put a load on the system and help with their testing. Again, because we have a much smaller staff now, or so our team, we had to kind of make up for some lost time, right? So data migration and conversions, we were going to do it a couple times here, once for the CRP, for ICRP, mock, and go live. So well, we're going to get really good at this process as we go, and some things we could actually bring over and actually leave the data there. So it, you know, got a little easier every time. We also brought in project support to handle the day-to-day CNC movements that have to happen during a project, you know, package builds and move this, move that, that type of stuff, and prepare for the after go live support, what we call app care or managed care or app care. So we also got our staff ready for that. So we kind of brought them in near the end of the go live, or the beginning of the go live, I should say, to actually get them accustomed to the players and the processes and stuff. So it made it a lot easier. So let's start off with the planning session. How do we do this? We actually had a build out and modernization workshop. This was a several-day event where we actually went through and laid out everything, what we think we need, what we want to do, what they want to do, how we want to get there. with the provisioning of the hardware, prep and provisioning of the cloud, networking and firewall type stuff, beginning the framework for the 9.2 modernization plan. If you notice, I'm using the word modernization, not using update. They did not want the word update mentioned anywhere because it was a modernization. That's it. Okay, potato, potato, but I get it. That's what we're going to do. So we did that. Well, yeah, one of the things I did have a couple notes here I wanted to talk about. So just as we completed this planning session, by the way, that's when the COVID lockdown happened, which was kind of debilitating a little bit there. So, we had a lot of things we wanted to do and realized some things we may or may not be able to do until after go live. So we'll talk about some of that, but I think we got a lot of it done in time. So what came out of this session was we started to lay out the process to update the 9i and found out, well, in fact, we couldn't transition the 9i to the SQL database using the migration tool. It was too far behind, and so we had to come up with a way to use Oracle 11g to actually update and using the SQL tool. So we actually went out and they had an AWS tenancy already for some of the third-party products. So we segregated out a server somehow and got 11g on there and used that as our segmented network segment to get to where we can promote up to the SQL Server. So I think we had created a Win 2012 instance on using 11g, and a lot of trial and error here. I know there's a lot of swear words were spoken quietly, of course, and many errors and setbacks, to get through. But once we got that through in the proof of concept, we needed about a week or so to prove that out. We could make it work, and then once we did that, it was really fast. I think we did it all. The whole thing happened in hour or two. So we weren't allowed to use PD during any PD data. We all had to use the DR environment. So that was kind of a cool challenge too. So we had to figure that out, and it worked out well. We did have a functional team involved. Functional tasks. We brought in a functional team to really assist with scripting, and not just scripting for testing scripts. We're also, in the back of our minds, we were scripting for the load tester, which we talked about earlier. So that was, early on, we're like, oh, let's make sure we identify things we want to put in the Genesis tool to really, tax the system to see if we can make it work, right? Review of the existing setup. 8.11 is not the newest environment for sure. And we had to go back and just make sure things were all set up correctly. And, we did run into a lot of things, like there was, UDCs, user-defined codes that were, the blanks were removed that you really kind of needed for some other things, or, the things the system was looking for weren't there. So they had to go put some of those back in. So there's a lot of things like that. Assist with cutovers and issue resolution. We did took a lot of this on GSI's shoulders. We took on a lot of the issue resolution to make sure that goes on. Probably one of the most unheralded things that really happened. We went through all the scheduled jobs. There were a lot of them. Scheduled jobs went through review, revise, replace, reschedule process. We reviewed them all. We checked the processing options. So some things were actually set way wrong and have been for a long time. Replace them. There was some that were duplicates because one had one processing option, one had another, and it just should have been the same program, right, for data selection. Reschedule them. Some jobs were stepping on each other, causing timing issues along the way. So a lot of those things went through, and that was a heck of a little project too. And then we have navigation training and new UX1 training. Now, as you know, navigation is certainly different to a certain degree from 9.2 to 8.11, but UX1 training is totally new, right? So that had to be gone through, and we'll talk about that again because that's part of our lessons learned as well. We had the two main groups. We had financial and distribution. We're kind of running things. The financial folks really had some reports troubleshooting to get through. They did uncover like a sales update issue. Looks like for a long time the AIs were set incorrectly, and there was actually a a process that was done at the end of every month to clear certain tables, and it was because of this AI issue. So they didn't really know that that's what was happening, but they figured that out. Distribution, we ran into a few sales order issues and some mock cutover issues. One of the main things also was an MRP runtime was way out of whack. So had to dig into some of those things and get those corrected. And again, some things were really silly things like UDC tables being cleared or deleted entirely. So some of those things had to be reviewed and revised. Security was had originally was going to be a pretty big project, and we went that way, and they're like, you know what, let's just copy what we have and bring it up to 9.2. So it's not always the perfect way, but right now we needed the users that were going to be available for go live to be able to do what they do now, and they didn't want to spend the time on it at that moment. So what we did is we brought over the 8.11 security. Brought it over as is. We had to add in some certain things for like UX1 processing and stuff like that. Some of the new processes didn't exist, so we had to bring those over and turn them on. But other than that, security was pretty much left as is. It was later brought in as a security project later on after they went live, but it was actually pretty good. It worked out okay. And as you know, because it goes from wide open to lockdown in 9.2, so that had to be addressed. So retrofitting, we did have a lot of retrofits. 82 is not the worst I've seen, but it's not unremarkable here. We had 82 of them identified. As we went through them, about 40 of them were deemed unneeded. So those were either replaced by UX1 perhaps, or they were just said, we don't really care about this. We don't need to do that. So, so 40 were unneeded, and that left us a lot of time for the developers that we had scheduled. So we actually put them on some of the report issues that they had already. So some of the developers went out there and corrected some reports and did some really good work there. And, since we got the retrofitting done ahead of time, the decision was made was, well, why don't we start moving our date forward and see if we can get live earlier? So we actually moved it up from the end of September to mid-August, which is a nice 45-day swing, which is, in a project world, 45 days is a long time to remove from a project. So we did it. We said, okay, if you want it, that's what we're going to do. So as luck would have it, we were testing early and often anyway. Unit testing was going well because it was a pretty baked process anyway. We didn't, other than the fact that we went through and corrected some things and streamlined some issues. Unit testing was easy peasy. Nothing really outstanding there that was too bad. We moved the CRP up and ICRP up as well. And if you see the bottom, we got load testing. We did the Genesis load testing, starting actually with some of the unit testing. And then CRP and then ICRP. So by the time we got to ICRP, we were actually doing quite a bit. So let's show what we were doing there. The Genesis load testing, we were actually, we had several things. We were actually simulating 250 users, which I don't think they have 250 active users at the same time anyway. But that's what our license was for this. So we had put all 250 users on, transacting several days or weeks of information, depending on what the actual script was, in a few hours or a few minutes. So we were really pounding the system hard to see what, make sure it would work and can handle it. The system did a fine job. There was a few hiccups early where they just, tweaked a few things in the database, and life went on great. So again, for financial, we'd create the events and then some of the distribution curves. Once we create the events, you can then do the item ads, the transfers, and the sales, and all the, all the stuff that we normally would do. Then we did a bunch of the AR and AP transactions and did the posting, and then we kind of did them all that stuff together at the same time. And, of course, it was laid out where it would work correctly, so you can't pay stuff you don't have, that type of stuff. But it actually went really well. And the client agreed that, things are moving really well. This mid-August thing's really going to happen. So we said, all right. So we did. So it was time to flip the switch. We got to mid-August, and Friday at 5, we started doing all the stuff you normally would do in a go live. Did the posting, everything was open. We stopped scheduled jobs, etc. Saturday at midnight, which is really 7 hours from the start of it, right? We did the rest of the start of the data conversion and get the upgrade going. By Saturday afternoon, we brought the team in and users in to do some smoke testing. They actually had 24 hours to, make that happen, break it, see if they can make everything work. There was a no-go decision. And actually, they didn't even take the whole 24 hours. They said Sunday at 3, let's go, we're good. So from Friday afternoon till Sunday afternoon, got it all done and was processing live stuff by Sunday afternoon. Excuse me. So lessons learned. We kept the team together from the live date until the end of September. So the new live date, mid-August to the end of September, we kept some of the team, not all the team, I guess, because we didn't need everybody, but kept most of the team on hand to do any of the follow-up, any of the tasks we had. Excuse me. And we also transitioned to App Care at that point. Our App Care is our managed care. And we brought some of them in while we were actually going live to actually get a taste of everything, make sure everything was working. And they understood who to talk to and what goes where and when and how and all that stuff. Load testing revealed several issues that were addressed pre-go live. Once we started doing load testing after the first initial phase, it was good to go. We did learn one thing: navigation training and UX1 training should definitely be done as soon as possible. And we did do it really early to the project team, a couple of the project team members, but the users really should have had that as well, because that probably would have even moved up the timeline even more had the users understood what UX1 could do for them and how some of the mods that they had out there to be retrofitted didn't have to happen. That's actually, when we got down to those 40, a lot of those were because they just went through the training that, oh my God, you don't need to do this, this, or this. And it's like, okay, enough people say that, next thing you know, you've got 40 of them you're not doing. Also, due to the compressed timeline, even though it was great we got live early, one of the things they wanted to get done prior to go live was enact the SQL failover process pre-go live. Now, I don't know how this sausage is made, but I'll tell you what it does. Because if you remember in the beginning, I'm a distribution guy. I'm not a DBA. But basically, there's availability grouping and clustering and stuff. And as one of the SQL fails, JD Edwards still thinks it's live, and you don't really get signed off. It takes you right over to the other cluster automatically. So very cool stuff. And they actually did that after go live. They went down and fixed that, but that was just a issue that had to happen, had to be fixed. So it's pretty neat process. And with that, my friends, if you have questions, please post them, because I am done. See, I told you we didn't need a whole hour from Quest. You guys were so nice to give me an hour. I don't think I needed that. So
thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
I don't see anything as of yet. So this is just a reminder to please